So, globalization. It's a word we hear all the time, right? But what does it actually mean? It's so much more than just, cheap gadgets and global shipping. It's really a story about power, about competing ideas. It's the blueprint for how our entire world is put together. So let's unpack the big ideas that built our modern world. To really get a handle on this, we've got to look back. We're going to start with the raw power of empires, and then see how that idea morphed into the post-war development project. From there, we'll dive into the neoliberal blueprint that, let's be honest, pretty much runs the world today. And finally, we'll listen to the critics, the thinkers asking the tough questions, like, hey, does this system really work for everybody?
I want you to think of this explainer as your own personal toolkit. We're about to hand you a set of powerful lenses, and each one is going to give you a totally different way of seeing the global system, revealing all those hidden forces that shape our everyday lives.
You know that phone in your hand? Or the coffee you might be drinking right now? Well, they didn't just appear out of nowhere. They're the end product of centuries of global power plays. So to really understand the now, we have to start way back at the beginning, with the straightforward, raw power of empire.
Yep, this is where it all started. The very foundations of our modern world were really laid through force and dominance.
Okay, first concept, imperialism. At its core, it's just a drive for one country to control another. It's all about projecting your power, politically, economically, and militarily, all across the globe to get more resources and more influence. Simple as that.
And that drive leads directly to this next idea, colonialism. Now, this isn't just influencing from a distance. This is the boots-on-the-ground part. It's setting up a whole government, bringing in your own people, and directly running another country's day-to-day business.
So here's the key difference, and it's a super important one. Think of imperialism as the big idea, the grand ambition, the blueprint for domination. Colonialism? That's the practice, the action. It's actually planting the flag and taking over. So imperialism is the theory, and colonialism is the result.
But things change, right? After World War II, as those massive empires began to fall apart, the whole strategy had to shift. Direct political rule just wasn't going to fly anymore. So in its place, a brand new project emerged: control through economic development.
And this was called the Development Project. On the surface, the idea sounded pretty good. Give these newly independent nations in the Global South a roadmap to build up their economies and, catch up to the West.
One of the main plays in this playbook was something called import substitution. The idea was, instead of just shipping out raw materials and buying back expensive finished goods, these countries should build their own industries, make their own cars, for instance, to become more self-sufficient. But it didn't take long for critics to point out a massive flaw in this plan. They called it dependency theory, and their argument was powerful. They said this help wasn't creating real independence at all. It was just forging a new, sneakier kind of dependence, tying the Global South to the money, the technology, and the markets of the North.
While the failures of that development project basically left a huge vacuum, and into that void stepped a radical new idea, an idea that would completely take over. If modern globalization has an operating system, well, this is it. It's called neoliberalism.
The core belief of neoliberalism is incredibly simple and incredibly powerful. The free market knows best. The theory goes that if governments just get out of the way and let the market do its thing, it will create the most efficient, most rational outcomes, not just for the economy, but for all of society.
And the playbook that goes with it is really straightforward. 1. Let the market run wild. 2. Shrink the government's role. 3. Slash regulations. And the promise? Maximum wealth and individual freedom for absolutely everyone. So, let's be clear. This isn't about getting rid of government completely. In the neoliberal view, the state has a very specific job: to be the referee for the free market, not a player. Its role is to enforce contracts, protect private property, and keep the market running smoothly, and then to step back and let it work.
Okay, so, as you can probably guess, not everyone was on board with this new blueprint. It sparked a massive, and I mean massive, debate that is still raging today about the real consequences of this global experiment.
One of the most important critiques comes from a thinker named Karl Polanyi, who came up with this idea of the double movement. He basically said that for every action, there's a reaction. So when the free market expands and starts disrupting people's lives, society always pushes back. It demands protection, things like labor laws, social safety nets, environmental regulations. You get the idea.
Now, neo-Marxian thinkers, they take this critique a whole lot further. For them, the entire system is rigged from the start. They argue that neoliberal globalization isn't some great new thing. It's just classic capitalism in a shiny new outfit, still running on the exploitation of people and the planet.
And this leads us to a really fascinating, kind of mind-bending modern theory from two thinkers, Hart and Negri. They call it empire. And they argue that today, global power doesn't come from a single place like Washington, D.C. or London anymore. Instead, it's a decentralized network. It's a form of control that's everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. And here is the great paradox, the big twist in their theory. Who actually powers this new empire? Well, we do. The billions of people all around the world working and buying things. They call us the multitude. We're the engine that makes the whole system run, which, if you think about it, also means we hold the ultimate power to change it.
So, after all that, which theory is the right one? Well, here's the key takeaway. There is no single right answer. These aren't competing to be the one true explanation. They're all tools in that toolkit we talked about. Each one is a different lens that helps us see a vital piece of the huge, complicated puzzle of our globalized world.
And that brings us to the final question, and this one's for you. When you look at the world around you, when you watch the news, look at the phone in your hand, or just think about the economy, which of these powerful ideas, which of these lenses best explains what you see? Which theory feels the most true to your experience?